Hey everybody, my name is Paula and this is Passion for Plants. I'm here with my daughter Heather this morning. She lives on Vancouver Island, British Columbia, and I live on the lower mainland of British Columbia. So we are communicating and recording over Zoom. I love Zoom. Doesn't everybody? Maybe some don't, I don't know. But we sure like it because we can communicate quite well on it. So I just want to say good morning, Heather.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Doing all right. Yeah, had a good start to the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad that you can be with us this morning. Now, you have a bachelor's degree in agriculture from the University of British Columbia, and you have a master's in genetics, I think it is, from UBC as well. And now you're one of the managers on an organic farm on the island. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about the farm? And I really want to hear as well how you did last year, because I know we had some unusual weather in British Columbia last year. So if you could tell us a little bit about the farm and how you did through that kind of weather.
Oh, for sure. Well, we do mixed organic vegetables and we sell through a box program. During the pandemic, the box program became our main source of income because it was challenging for us to go to the farmers market. But thankfully, customers have been really happy to come to the farm themselves, which has been great. I guess the big challenge last year was the heat dome with, just really far higher than normal temperatures. I think we only got up to 38 or so here, but I mean, still, it was much higher than normal. Thankfully, at that time, most of our more sensitive crops were being grown outdoors instead of inside the greenhouse. So we use both greenhouse space and outdoor space to grow stuff. I think the main thing that took a hit was the cucumbers because they don't really like hot weather that much, but they kind of bounced back once the normal temperatures returned. And so I would say it wasn't too bad. I would credit that to the fact that we already were on drip irrigation and we were already using things like plastic mulch to keep moisture in for really sensitive crops. And yeah, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. I would say also that greens also took a bit of a hit. We had them outdoors under remay. They probably got way hotter than they needed to, but we still had something to harvest. And I guess kind of the secret is like, because we grow so many different kinds of things, something usually does well. And because we're trying to manage our soil well, the soil is more able than we might expect to hold moisture and stuff like that. So, it didn't hurt as much as we thought it would basically.
Yeah. So I know you do a lot of amending of your soil. You just mentioned that. So can you tell us a little bit about what kinds of things you add to the soil that will help with water retention?
I guess the main way that we try to do organic matter is actually through cover crops, just because it's a lot easier than making and spreading huge quantities of compost. And so we do, like in the winter, I usually plant a mix of rye and vetch. And then in the springtime, usually mow it down and till it under. We'll sometimes also use a plastic tarp just to kind of spread a huge piece of plastic over the surface to get it to decompose more quickly. There's that. We also use alfalfa pellets as a source of nitrogen and some other nutrients. We sometimes also use fish bone meal and sulfate of potash as well, just to help with some of the other macronutrients kind of a thing.
Right.
And then like when we transplant, we usually use a combination of fish fertilizer and kelp emulsion to help with, a combination of the macronutrients and the micronutrients kind of a thing. And so I guess like the water retention would have more to do with the organic matter. So that's coming more from the cover crops and this kind of stuff. And then for nutrients, we're using the other things I mentioned.
That sounds like a really great program. I don't think most of us at home are doing anything near the same.
I have to say, it's kind of like the managing soil is my favorite part of my job. I really like that part. I guess it kind of helps when you're doing it when you're doing it for a living. You can offset the cost. You sort of recoup the cost of some of those inputs and stuff like that, kind of a thing. But I think it's definitely I don't know, good soil makes a really huge difference. You can really tell, even within the farm, you can tell the difference. If the soil is good, you have good crops. If the soil isn't good, you don't have good crops.
I think that your vegetables are usually a good size and they also somehow taste really good. You know, they taste way better than even other farms, I find. So I think that program must be
Yeah,
one of the keys to that, eh?
I guess so. I guess so. I think it might also help that the well water we're on has a really good mineral balance to it too. It's actually
Ah,
got quite a bit of
yes.
calcium in it, which
Mm-hmm.
I've heard anecdotally sort of helps with the flavor of the vegetables and stuff like this too.
Ah,
And so that might be another factor. I think I've also heard anecdotally that animal manure can sometimes change the flavor of vegetables, and we're not using animal manure.
okay, okay,
So
okay.
I wonder if those might be some of the pieces to the picture kind of a
Mm-hmm.
thing. I guess the other
Mm-hmm.
thing we do too is we don't flood the vegetables with water. Like if you give them a lot of water, they'll be really big, but they'll just be watered down kind of a thing. Whereas what we
Mm-hmm.
try to do is we give them enough water that they can grow properly, but only just enough. And so that way the flavor is more concentrated.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow, that's
Yeah.
really some good information. I don't think a lot of us at home are willing to put in the work for it, but I'm sure that if we did, we would find that we would get much more nutrition out of the
Mhm.
vegetables
Mhm.
that we're growing at home. And that's
Mhm.
the whole point of growing our own, right?
Yeah, I think
Because
so. I think
the
so.
store-bought stuff maybe is not quite as nutritious. It certainly doesn't taste as good,
Mhm, mhm,
but
mhm, mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
so
that's,
another thing, mhm,
go
go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, another thing, I was going to change the subject.
Yeah.
um, the other thing I wanted to ask you about was every year I like to grow something unusual.
Mm.
So can you think of something that's unusual and not too difficult to grow in the home garden?
Ooh. The one that I've been wanting to do this year, which is probably not the easiest, but not super hard either, is growing bitter melon, not for its fruit, but for its leaves.
Oh, oh, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, because we normally grow a little bit of bitter melon along with our cucumbers inside the greenhouse.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't like it doesn't always do well every year. Some years it
Mhm.
does so well that we have tons of extra available to sell, kind of like
Ah,
that. And we're typically growing it for the fruit. Like I don't know if listeners are familiar with it, but it goes by a bunch of different names in different cultures. But like it's these little, maybe about that big little green, sort of like a cucumber, but bumpy on the outside and kind of lime green.
mhm.
Um, yeah, so we
I
normally
think
grow it for the
so.
fruit.
I
Mhm.
think some viewers will know it as Corella, or
Yeah,
I'm
that's one
not
of the
sure
names.
how, is that how you
I'm not
pronounce that
sure.
word?
I'm actually not sure how to pronounce that particular name.
Corella. In the West Indies, we called it Coraili, but I have
Mhm,
never heard
mhm,
anyone else
mhm.
using that name for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard one Indian family we know here use a name kind of like that for it. I just can't remember exactly how they pronounce it. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, but I know it goes by a bunch of different names. Like I know even in it goes by a bunch of different names in different parts of the world, basically. And yeah, someone was telling me that I don't know if it was a family thing or if someone he knows uses actually the leaves of bitter melon to make a
Mhm.
tea, which they drink when
Mhm.
they've had too much sugar to eat. So, how like during the holidays or, you go to a birthday party or something and you eat way too much sugar and you feel really gross. I tried doing
Yeah,
this and it really works. Like I put, I don't know, just depending on the size of the cup, 2 or 3 dried leaves in a cup, pour some hot water on
mhm.
top, let it steep. I'm not really too fussy about exactly how long. I just steep it till what color of the water sort of becomes
Mhm. Mhm.
tea-like sort of a thing,
Right,
and drink
right.
it. And it is bitter, but it's a really good kind of bitter. And I feel better almost right away. It was really
Um,
interesting actually doing some poking on the internet the other day and realizing that this is actually the use of bitter melon for like anti-diabetes and a bunch of other effects is actually documented in a variety of traditional medicine systems in different parts of the
mhm.
world.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it looks, I need to do some more digging, but it looks like there is actually some clinical evidence for its efficacy as well.
Mhm.
But I guess what I'd really like to do is, given that I know that the leaves have been really helpful for me, I would like to try growing it just for its leaves. What I find usually
Okay.
happens is like you'll grow it and it'll just kind of like this, make this thin little vine going up. And then
Mhm.
when it gets established, then it will really branch out and produce lots of side
Ah,
branches here and there. We actually usually end up cutting them back at some point, and then I just dry those ones that I cut back. But I guess I was thinking to myself, what if I just plant the plants more closely together and then harvest it as a
Mhm.
leaf crop?
As a leaf, yeah,
Because then I
okay.
could put more plants in a smaller space, and
Mhm. Mhm.
then it wouldn't matter as much whether the weather is right for it to fruit or not. And, you know, like I said, just get them and dry them when they're still in that kind of like just, I find the right stages when they've sort of just become their mature size, but before the
Right.
leaves can kind of start to look yellowish and old or anything like that. If I
Right,
can get them at
okay.
that stage and dry them, I'd really like to
Mhm.
start sharing this with our customers and, you know, see if it's something that
Mhm.
can work for other
Mhm.
people too, you know? So
Mhm. 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 That's very interesting. I think I will try that one.
the nice
Well,
thing too
the
is they're open pollinated. Like I've never come across a hybrid variety. Like it's not such a popular crop, but there's all kinds of hybrids out there. Like if you find seed for better melon, it's probably open pollinated. And
Mhm.
it's actually not like if you have like a little mini greenhouse or something, as long as you get a fruit, it's not that hard to save the seeds.
Okay, right. Mhm.
Like we've saved our own seeds a number of times, and it's not like we're super warm where we are,
Okay, so
which
that
means
means
that then you can get more
we
seeds.
can buy one bitter melon and get the seeds from it then, or are they not mature enough in the store?
I really don't know. It's worth a try. It's worth a try.
Oh,
I've never done that before. It could be worth a try. I know that there's a number of seed companies where they'll have one variety of bitter melon available. And so
mhm.
I guess what I would suggest is try that. And then, you know, if you can save your own seeds, then you'll have more seeds for the next time kind of a deal.
Right, 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 right.
I guess the thing is, like, it's not one of those crops that you can just put the seeds into cold soil and have it germinate. We normally start them on a hotbed, since you know they're
Okay.
used to growing in a warm climate, so they do want the heat
So
for germinating.
yes,
But
okay.
after that, we can plant them in the soil in like under a greenhouse cover here
Mm-hmm.
in like coastal BC, where it's not super warm kind of a deal, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're typically
Mm-hmm.
planting them in, say, like May kind of a thing.
Okay.
So maybe start the season
So
in April, transplant them in May is our normal pattern.
so sort of like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant,
Well, kind of like
same
that's
timing.
similar timing. And realistically, I think
Mm-hmm.
one reason I want to try it as a leaf crop is because I think that if I could start the seeds later, they might
Mm-hmm.
grow more quickly if they were growing only.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could get a bushier plant with more leaves and have more leaves to harvest and not worry about how much fruit I get, kind of,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Actually, that's a technique that I would like to try with my tomatoes and peppers this year coming up, to
Mhm.
start a bit later and then have them develop more in the heat of the summer rather than fighting with the cold weather in the
Mhm.
first part of the season.
Mhm.
So,
I'm reminded of oh, I know there's a, and when we've talked before, there's a gardener in England whose videos I know you've recommended.
mm-hmm. Charles Dowding.
Oh yeah, Charles Dowding. I know in one of his videos he showed a comparison of zucchini plants where he'd started some early and put them out while it was still cold, versus ones he'd started later and put them out while it was warm outside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you could really clearly see the difference. The ones that
Oh yeah.
in warm conditions, even though they were younger plants, they looked infinitely better than the ones that had to fight with the cold.
Mm-hmm. Mm, isn't that interesting? Yeah, I'll definitely be trying that this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So another crop that I was thinking of trying this year, and I have tried it before, but I didn't really have the success that I was hoping for, and that is with the leeks.
Mm-hmm.
So they are an onion family, and so I usually start my onions in early February, and I start them in those 6-pack seedling starter things. And then So I let them sit in the 6-packs for quite a while because I found with onions anyway that if I let them get really sturdy before I transplant them, that they do way better than if I transplant them too soon. So it's almost like they have to be root bound in their seedling trays before I put them out. And that seems to work well. So I want to try that with leeks. I think you guys grow leeks on the farm too, don't you?
Ooh, I mean, we're not that great at growing leeks. Other farms nearby have leeks that are like that big around. Ours tend to be more like that if we're lucky, kind of a thing. But we do grow them though.
Mhm. But I think I was reading that they really need acidic soil, like very acidic soil.
Maybe that's one of
And
our problems.
so that might be.
Yeah.
I have been using vinegar and water to acidify my soil because I like growing blueberries and strawberries, and they need like, at least 6, if not. My soil right now, without doing anything, my soil is 6.8 pH. So to bring it down to 6 or lower than 6 even, I can use vinegar. 1 cup of vinegar per gallon of water is what I
Cool.
use.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I've been wanting for a long time to sort of crack the code on growing better leeks because you get tired of growing tiny leeks, sort of a thing. Paying attention to pH, I guess, in the starting mix and in the soil and field, kind of a thing. That could be. I would be very interested to see whether or not that's part of our problem. I know we, like I said, we typically have very skinny leeks, but at the same time, I guess even small leeks are still taste like leeks, which is great.
Yeah, that's that's true.
Seeing the really beautiful ones in the store that when I see these like little skinny pencil things, I'm kind of disappointed. But the thing is, if you chop them up, they still taste good though.
Yeah.
Like I feel sometimes like people, myself included, can get discouraged if it doesn't look perfect.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, if what we're
Well,
going
it's
for is something tasty to eat or something tasty to sell, as the case may be, then a thin leek is still a leek. And
yeah, that's
and
right.
still be something that's really tasty in the winter time and good to go in a variety of dishes.
Now, the other thing about leeks that I find frustrating is the length of time that they take. But I was noticing in the seed catalogs that there are different varieties. So you can
Yes.
get some with a maturity date of like 60 days.
Mhm.
And then there's 100 days, and then there's 135 days.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
So,
mhm,
and
mhm.
I think they suggested that we should use the short season leeks for summer and fall, and
Ooh,
then the ones that have a longer period for the winter harvest, because you can leave them right in the ground. You don't have to harvest them, when it starts getting cold.
yeah, that's what
You
we.
can actually leave them in the ground even when it snows or goes below 0
Mhm, mhm,
Celsius.
mhm, mhm.
You can just leave them in the ground anyway. I guess if you have a piece of crop cover, you can cover them
Yeah, yeah.
just so that they're a bit easier to harvest. But
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, that's something I really want to try this year.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I wonder now, just like as we're having this conversation, I realize that because we're growing, to sell to our customers, we're growing large quantities of various things, we tend to start our leeks quite early. Like even, I'm not the person who does the seed starting, but I'm thinking that kind of like February, even sort of a thing. For starting
Hmm.
our leek seeds, but part of why we start so early is because we don't have room on the hotbed later. We have limited hotbed space and we need it for things like eggplants and cucumbers later. So we start the leeks early to get them out of the way. But I wonder if I wonder if we might do better if we could start, like in our earlier discussion, I wonder if we might do better if we started them later,
Hmm.
had them
Yeah.
growing under warmer conditions, perhaps. I just
Hmm.
wonder, question mark kind of a thing. We tend to grow
Right.
so many different kinds of crops. We don't always have the attention to optimize the details for every single one. And leeks tend to be sort of, you grow them, you do something at the end of the season sort of a deal. But I wonder if there might be some things like that that could optimize things a bit better, perhaps.
They are really useful in the kitchen, though. I find I haven't tried them in a salad raw, but I've heard that's good. Slice them
Oh, right.
thinly and add them to the salad.
Mhm.
But I know whenever I've used them in soups or stews, they just add a flavor that is undescribable. They're just
Yeah.
uh,
The only way to
a
make Mhm.
true delicacy.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Yeah. The only leek and potato soup is leek and potato soup. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, good stuff. Good stuff. So which variety of
Mhm.
leeks are you planning to grow this year then?
I haven't decided yet. I may even get one short season and one longer season.
That sounds good.
I don't grow a lot of leeks though, so I'm not sure I want to buy that many seeds, especially since I'm not sure that they keep that well either. I
Mm-hmm.
think the onion family seeds tend to go, um, they lose their potency after a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I have had onion seeds that lasted me from one season to another,
Okay.
but they sure lose a lot of
Yeah.
germination rate. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
We'll see.
it's well to buy fresh this year then. So
I just may pick one of the mid season
yeah, yeah.
and do that.
Mhm.
Successive plantings of a mid season one.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, if you do the successive plantings, I'll be very interested to hear how that goes because then you will see the effect over different times of the season, different start dates, kind of a thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
what comes to mind with leeks as well is the farm I know that grows really like really amazing leeks. They use a lot of animal manure.
All right.
So, and again, like I mean, leeks are not my specialty. I haven't done a lot of research on everything they need, but the thing is that they seem like a crop that might appreciate a lot of nutrients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I would my my limited understanding is that phosphorus might be important for them. I guess what I'm just trying to say is
Mm-hmm.
the nutrient requirements to make sure they're really getting what they need. Because the
Mm-hmm.
it does grow really amazing leeks. Like I said, they use a lot of animal manure, and the type of animal manure they use has a lot of phosphorus in it. Like
Mm-hmm.
so much they actually have problems with too much phosphorus in their soil, which is
Mm.
the average home gardener kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Paying attention to the phosphorus might be one of the pieces. I would just look up and see whether or not that's the case, kind of a thing.
All right. Mm-hmm. I'll do that. Yeah. Well, I think that's it for today. Don't think I have any more questions for you.
Well, this was
It's,
fun. I'm glad we got to do it.
yeah, it's been really very interesting to have you on. I feel
Mhm.
like we've learned quite a bit from you already. Maybe we can do it again sometime soon.
Really cool. I'd like that. I learned something each time as well.
Okay, so we'll say goodbye for now.
Bye for now.
Goodbye and goodbye to the viewers. See
Yeah,
you next time.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Mhm. Oops.